Wyldwood are an arts charity, and we focus on working really closely with the community in a co-creative way. We get into the heart of communities and we find out what they'd like to do, and we try to help make that happen. Having funding from Foresters Forest has meant that we've been able to do all kinds of fantastic work in our local environment, which has been based around heritage, around community connections, around creativity, and just about celebrating this fantastic place that we live. One of the things that Wyldwood really focuses on is intergenerational work, so bringing different generations together to have shared experiences in a creative community environment. We worked on a project called the Pudding Club in St Breville's, where we discovered that historically there had been something called the Pudding Club, where people would make and eat puddings together, which sounds fantastic. We ran a series of community sessions where we worked with a professional cooking facilitator, and we brought groups of different people together, cooking up puddings on a Sunday morning and then eating them on a Sunday afternoon. We created a series of short podcasts where we sent our podcast producer along to chat to different people in the Forest of Dean. So we chatted to Jonathan from Clearwell Caves, and we talked to his sister Elaine, who ran something at the time called The Secret Forest. We created a podcast celebrating 3 generations of free miners. We chatted to Forest Brass, who are a brass band based in Park End. And we also talked to Kevin Stannard, who's the Deputy Surveyor for the Forest of Dean, and he gave us a really brilliant overview of kind of the past, present and future of the area. We created an online project called 100 Forest Faces, which is based loosely around the idea of the 100 of St Breville. So we wanted to take the idea of 100 of something and try to capture 100 Instagram submissions from people in the Forest of Dean who sent us their images of them in the forest, telling us why they love the Forest of Dean and what makes them feel at home here. We've had a few different projects that have been based around performances. A brilliant performance called Passing the Baton, which celebrated brass band culture and led to some beautiful performances in the community at bandstands and as part of the Wye Valley River Festival. And then, of course, the pandemic came and we quickly had to shift things around, and we created something called The Meeting Post, which is our intergenerational newspaper. And we were able to feature all kinds of content from other Foresters Forest projects in the newspaper, and that went to older people and to children living across the Forest of Dean. Through the pandemic, the resilience of local people has really shone through. Mutual aid groups have sprung up, people are much more connected, and we also wanted to celebrate that through our community banner project, which has been kind of our final celebration event, really. We worked with Foresters Forest groups who we helped to facilitate making a banner, so we had some quite deep dive conversations with them into what's important about their community groups, why do they attend these groups, what does it mean to them to live in this place? And then that's been translated beautifully into these huge fabric banners. We set up a community banner parade in Cinderford, and starting at the Bellevue Centre, we paraded through residential streets with our banners. It was lovely because people were popping out of their doors and their windows and giving us a wave. Some people were saying, "Oh, what are they protesting about?" Actually, we were really happy to say that we were celebrating the community, and then we all congregated in the triangle so that we could have a really good look at each other's banners and we could chat to each other and really feel that sense of community after such a long period of being separate from each other through the pandemic. Working on celebrating the community with Foresters Forest has really informed the direction for Wyldwood moving forward, and we're thrilled that some of the projects that we've embarked on have really become embedded into communities, and they'll be remembered for a long time to come.
Since 2017, we've been researching these authors and their stories all about the forest or set in the forest. The forest's been written about since at least the end of the 16th century, so we've got several hundred years of fantastic books and fantastic authors we wanted to shout about and share our findings. And we've done that through online. We've created a website that tells the stories of these authors and their lives and their work. We've been creating films. We've been creating, especially important to us, resources for teachers and young people to engage young people in their rich literary heritage. Because the forest is about much, much more than its trees and its mining heritage, its sheep coming in, its flora and fauna. It's about its people, but it's also about its great literary heritage, and we want people to recognise the forest for that as well as all the other great things. So we've also commissioned 2 pieces of public art, one of which is behind me here. We've got 2 murals, one in another part of the Forest Dean, this one here in Cinderford, celebrating authors from East Dean. Here we've got Winifred Foley, Leonard Clark and Harry Beddington, all great writers and poets. And amongst their work, they focused a great deal on the Forest of Dean, writing about its people and places. We've been putting on exhibitions and events in the community. We've also been working with the BBC, and we've created 2 BBC radio serials about the forest authors, one of which was focusing specifically on the amazing female authors that have come from the Forest of Dean. Now, some of this literature is from a few hundred years ago, and many of the books are out of print. So what we've done is we've drawn all the best bits, if you like, together into an anthology, and we've distributed that free to every school in the Forest of Dean. So young people in the forest will be able to find out about their fantastic literary heritage. And of course, we're not just talking about books and authors from the past, we're also really interested in contemporary authors. So we've also put on events bringing contemporary authors together to talk about their work and their writing about the Forest of Dean. So all those digital and print resources we've created, they'll remain now, they'll carry on beyond the end of the Forester's Forest project. There's also loads we want to do, and we want to carry on with Reading the Forest because there's loads more exciting things to find out and share.
Forester's Forest organised the blue and green plaque scheme for the Forest of Dean. It was a fantastic community celebration, a special celebration, commemorating people who played a huge part in helping shape the Forest of Dean's history. The blue plaques were about commemorating someone who was nationally famous, or maybe even internationally famous. Our 5 green plaques were special to our Forester's Forest plaque scheme, and they're remembering people who are perhaps better known in the forest. Another thing that I feel is important about our plaque scheme is that it was a fantastic celebration of community, because it all began by our programme team reaching out publicly through the media, through our social media, and inviting as many people as possible to nominate people they thought should be remembered with one of our plaques. We had a short list of 18 people. We went out to public online vote in the summer of 2020, and we received hundreds of votes. It was fantastic. The results of those votes decided who the 10 people would be who were commemorated with a plaque. And we held an unveiling ceremony here at Yorkley Community Centre where we celebrated F.W. Harvey's plaque. And that was a special occasion because we had so many of his family with us. And it was particularly wonderful to have Eileen, his daughter, 99 years old on the day, unveil his plaque. Very special, poignant occasion for us to celebrate.
The Scarr Bandstand has been absolutely integral to the brass bands of the forest. They've been playing on the site for well over 120 years. I'm Alison Collison. I'm the secretary of Friends of Scarr Bandstand, which is a charity that maintains and restores the Scarr Bandstand, which is a heritage site in the Forest of Dean. So 1913 was the first bandstand that was built using funds raised by local people. Band concerts were immensely popular. The most popular was the Hospital Sunday events, where collections were taken for the local hospitals and good causes. This is before the NHS, of course. And apparently 3,000 or 4,000 people would turn up and watch the bands play. There were speeches, and then most importantly, money was collected. Then in the 1970s, the land by now was owned by the Forestry Commission, and with their permission, local people yet again collected money and put up the current bandstand. We've got the remains of that now. It had a beautiful shell roof at the time, and bands continued to play until the early 1980s, when, for various reasons, the site became derelict. The bandstand roof was vandalised and had to be taken down. The walls became unsafe. When I first saw the site, the nettles and the brambles were way above my head, and it was just being used as a walk-through for dog walkers. By the 2010s, the site was really at its most depressing, and at this point, a group of local people, led by Bill Gaylor, who was a local resident and a parish councillor, got together with the idea that this piece of iconic heritage, both for the brass bands and for the whole forest, shouldn't be allowed to just disintegrate, but could be rescued. Friends of Scarr Bandstand was formed as a local voluntary group to try and make this a useful site for the community once again. By chance, really, Foresters Forest was setting up that very same year, and Bill Gaylor applied and got some funding from Foresters Forest, which set us off on the path to success. So once we had restored the site by putting a boar fence around it, absolutely vital, and recreating the grassy arena that was here to start with, we also reinstated the car parks, top and bottom, and also the tracks, so that again it's a usable site. I think the most wonderful experience I've had on the Scarr Bandstand site was our very first brass band concert. Having worked so hard for about 2 years to get the site going, and to book the bands, and to hope that an audience came, and to do all the preparation and everything, and then to see people streaming in. A lot of people. We had over 300 people for the first event during the whole afternoon. And then the band struck up. And I was gone. I was a mess. To hear local brass band music playing at the Scarr Bandstand for the first time in 35 years, it sounded sensationally good, and it was just magic. It's what the place was built for, and there they were, and there were the local people enjoying it, and it was just stunning. So there is an appetite for an outdoor events arena for the arts in the forest. Friends of Scarr Bandstand is now a charity, which is brilliant, but we're still entirely run by volunteers, and we would very, very much like other local people to join us and take this project forward. There's lots to do, it's great fun, it would be brilliant, especially young people, next generation, bring them forward to help us with this project.